maybe we would do that in class, but. Hi, Beth Ann.
Julie, you look so studious.
Where we were.
What else is over here?
That's where we were.
Yeah. So I know that soon Rabbi Gelman's going to give us our directions. So I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah, so we're gonna go on mute all, and Julie, who's working our tech for tonight, she is going to add the. She's going to add the Siddur link to the chat so we can all follow along. And we're so glad to start with music from Cantor Katzman.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Let's try it one more time and you sing along. Maya Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Maya Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It is so wonderful to see all of you. I'm sure many of you heard this week the extraordinary youth poet laureate, Amanda Gorman. I know some of you spoke about her earlier today. And she blessed us with her powerful words this Wednesday. She began her poem with a question. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? And she ends the poem with answering that question. There is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Amanda Gorman reminded us to see the light and to be the light. And that's what we try and do on Shabbat. We begin every Shabbat by literally bringing light into the world and gathering it towards us, trying to kind of representationally make it a part of ourselves. And I think this act of gathering light towards us helps us remember that throughout so much of the week, when we are hard on ourselves and disgruntled and overwhelmed, these candles remind us to pause and see how much light we can bring into this world. They remind us that through kindness and compassion and bravery, we can bring light to those around us and see the light within ourselves. So I'm so grateful to be together, bringing light into each other's evenings, into each other's Shabbat. And our incredible bat mitzvah for tomorrow, Izzy Schaefer, is going to be bringing a lot of light by lighting Shabbat candles for us tonight with her family. So we call up Izzy Schaefer and we turn to our Shabbat candle blessing on page 120.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen. Mazel tov. Thank you. And in the same way we use Shabbat to bring light into our lives, we also use it to bring sweetness into our lives. And so Ben and Jake Pomerantz are going to be bringing a lot of sweetness into our lives and in the lives of their families with their B'nai Mitzvah, and they're going to be leading us in the Kiddush on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu v'shabbat kodshon ve'ahavat uratzon ilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom tehillah למקראי קודש, זהר נטיית מצרים, כי בנו בהרת, פירותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך, ואהבה ורצון, כמהלתנו. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Amen, l'chaim, and mazel tov. We can't wait for tomorrow. We're so excited for all of you. So we brought light into Shabbat. We brought sweetness into Shabbat. And now we're going to bring some nourishment into Shabbat, not just through food, but through stories. It's our family mishpacha Shabbat tonight. So I have a story that I'm very excited to share with all of you. So I hope that you'll lean in for our special Shabbat story time. So once upon a time, in a kingdom very far away from here, there was a king. And in particular king fashion, he just wasn't that good of a king. He failed his people in a lot of ways, and people were pretty often disappointed with him. Well, one day he was just feeling fed up. He needed things in the kingdom were not going very well, and he needed a distraction. And he decided that he needed a group of people to blame all of the kingdom's problems on. And as many kings have done before him, he realized that an easy group of people to blame the problems of the kingdom on were the kingdom's Jewish community. He thought, aha, perfect, I found the solution. I'm going to blame all of the problems on the Jews, and then everyone in the kingdom will feel better for themselves. So he went to the Jewish quarter of his kingdom, and he brought out the rabbi. And he brought out all of the Jewish people. And he said, listen, Jews, there are a lot of problems in this kingdom. I think it is your fault. So I have a deal. I have a special group of riddles. I have 3 riddles. And these aren't just any riddles. These are silent riddles that I'm going to do just with my hands in my own special sign language. And you have to send me one person tomorrow at noon who has to answer all 3 riddles correctly. And if you don't answer all 3 riddles correctly, then all of the Jewish people will be expelled from this kingdom. Well, how do you think the Jewish people felt about that? Not great. They were not excited. And so they convened all in one place, and they tried to figure it out. And they went to the rabbi first, and they said, Rabbi, you seem kind of smart. Maybe you'll know the answer to these riddles. And the rabbi said, I didn't go to rabbinical school to answer riddles. I don't want to take on this responsibility. And they went to their top Talmud scholar, their study of law and Torah, and they said, top Talmud scholar, why don't you be our representative for answering riddles? And she was like, absolutely not. I study the Talmud. I do not know what these riddles are going to be. I do not want to take on this responsibility. And they went to their doctor, and they went to their lawyer, and all of the people he would expect to answer these riddles. But nobody wanted to take on the responsibility. Finally, one man in the back, Chaim, the chicken man, said, I will take on the responsibility. I've got it. I feel confident. I will save us. I'll do it. I'll do it. And they were like, oh, okay, great. Chaim, the chicken man, awesome. So sure that he's going to say, oh, we do not feel excited about this. But no one else was willing to do it. And Chaim was willing to do it. So the next day, Chaim met the king in the king's royal courtyard with all of the people gathered around for a battle of wits, of riddles. And everyone was looking at them, and they leaned in quietly. And the king said, it's time for the first riddle. And he held up his hand like this towards Chaim's face. Can people go like this? Held up his hand like this towards Chaim's face. And Chaim immediately knew what to do. He held up his fist in the air and he went like this. Can I see everyone? Hold up your fists in the air. And the king gasped and he said, oh my gosh, you got the answer. You got the riddle right. Whew, what a relief. 2 more to go. It was time for the second riddle. The king took his 2 fingers and he held them up and he kind of started moving them towards Chaim's face. And Chaim knew exactly what to do. He held up 1 finger. Can I see everyone hold up 1 finger? And he blocked the king's 2 fingers. And the king said, oh my gosh, you got that one right too. What a relief. And the king said, for our last riddle, I have prepared the most challenging riddle of them all. The king pulled out of his pocket an old piece of stinky looking blue cheese. And he held it up to Chaim. But Chaim, of course, knew exactly what to do. So Chaim pulled out of his own pocket an egg, and he held that up towards the king. And once again, the king was in complete shock, and he said, you got all 3 riddles right. And the Jews, I have to let you stay. He was totally overcome with shock and surprise. And he let the Jews stay in the kingdom. Well, that night, everybody was having a lot of parties because that's what you have to do. And you either throw a competition and the chicken man answers everything right, or you don't get expelled from your kingdom. So the king was holding his own party and the Jews were holding their own party. And at the king's party, his ministers came up to them and they said, Your Royal Highness, please tell us, what were those riddles? What was happening? And how did that little chicken man know how to answer them? And the king said, well, he was a really brilliant man. He said, I held up my hand and like this to show him that the Jewish people are spread out all over the kingdoms. And so they're not loyal and they can't be loyal to they're not unified and they're not loyal to me. And they're just spread out and they're not trustworthy. But Chaim the chicken man went like this to let me know that even though the Jews seem like they're spread out everywhere, they remain a unified and solid group. So he knew how to answer the first question. Then I held out my hand like this because I had to tell him that there are 2 kings. There's 1 king in heaven, God, and there's 1 king on earth, me. But Chaim the chicken man was such a pious man that he held up 1 finger to show me that there is just 1 king in heaven, and that king is the king, God is the king, not me. Finally, I pulled out a piece of stinky blue cheese to show him that the Jewish community is old and it's irrelevant and it's kind of a little rotten and smelly. And he, the brilliant man that he is, pulled out an egg to show me that actually, no, the Jewish community is fresh and constantly renewing and just healthy and wonderful. And that's how I knew that, I couldn't expel this group of people. I was just so amazed by this man's wisdom. Well, at the same time, over in the Jewish quarter, neighbors were coming up to Chaim and saying, Chaim, how did you do it? We never would have expected this of you. How did you know how to answer the king's questions? And Chaim said, I just don't think the king is that smart of a man. I don't understand what was so deep about these riddles. He held up his hand to threaten and attack me, and I held up a fist to show him that if he tried to attack me, I would fight back. Then he came for me. He took his 2 hands and he went straight for my eyes, and I blocked him with my finger and showed him I couldn't be intimidated. Finally, it seemed like he gave up and he was hungry, so he pulled out his lunch. And I thought, what a better way to make a friend than by having lunch together, and I pulled out mine too. And that is the story. And I love that story because it's told all around the world with different communities. Jews tell this story, Muslims tell this story. And it's a story of communication, about how challenging communication can be and how we can think that we're being so cleared to the people around us and that what we know and see is so obvious. But it's about the beauty of different people being able to see the world in totally different ways and still communicating and eating together, and hopefully nobody gets expelled. So Shabbat Shalom, so great to see all of you. And I believe Rabbi Conover, you are next.
Well, Shabbat Shalom and Yesher Koach. What a wonderful story. And I love that one of the things when we think that the Jews are spread out and we say, no, we're one community all together, that we do so by bringing in Shabbat like this together. And I can imagine that the world over, we are inviting the Sabbath bride to enter our midst, that's one of the ways that we celebrate Shabbat, where we use our imagination to say that God could enter our midst and bring joy like a bride. And so we turn to pages 138 and 139 for Lecha Dodi.
Adonai echad, Shemo echad, V'shemo tiferet v'lihina. Lechatoti likat alay, 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 Nishapat lecha b'lah. Lechatoti likat alay, 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 Nishapat lecha b'lah. Likrat Shabbat u'menencha, Kihim lekol ha'malacha, Merash mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tefillah. Lechatoti likrat alay, 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 Bnei Shabbat lecha b'lah. Lechatoti likrat alay, 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 Bnei Shabbat lecha b'lah. Hitoreri, hitoreri, Kiva oret Uri, Uri, Shir daveri, Kevod Adonai, alay dikah. Lechatoti likat alay, 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 Bnei Shabbat lecha b'lah. Lechatoti likat alay, 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 Bnei Shabbat lecha b'lah. Goyi v'shalom Ateret bala, gam besimcha u'tzola. Toch emuneh am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lechatoti likrat alay, 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 Bnei Shabbat lecha b'lah. Lechatoti likrat alay, 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 Bnei Shabbat lecha b'lah.
We turn to page 146 and rise in spirit as one community for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai, Baruch Adonai, HaMevorach, Le'olam Vaed. Lai, 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 lai.
Shema, page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Leolam Vaed.
Cantor, are you as excited as I am for the fifth graders leading us in the Ve'ahavta?
I am more excited.
All right.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך דיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך שובך וקונך. לשרתם לאו על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, בשם קדושים אלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Emet. That is fantastic. And Cantor, I don't know if we had a chance to talk about Amanda Gorman and hearing her poem at Inauguration Day. I love that Rabbi Singer started our service with it, and that we all felt like we wanted to bring this into Shabbat. I like when we get to this moment in our prayer. By the way, I don't know if you knew that Amanda Gorman is not only the Youth Poet Laureate, but that also she overcame a speech impediment. She had a very hard time pronouncing R's, and found a lot of times that she had to get creative with the ways in which she was going to share the poetry of her heart. And I appreciate that so much, that sometimes we have to work hard and try to be able to let our truest selves shine through, no matter how. And I love this moment in our prayer as we turn to page 158 for Mechamocha, that this moment of prayer reminds us that as we once walked out of slavery to a land of promise, that we all continue to have the responsibility to make sure that in all lands and in our land, that we fulfill the promise of this land. And I want to share with us some of these words from Amanda Gorman, because she reminds us of this. That when day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. Armi Chamocha reminds us of the work we must do to continue the work of this unfinished redemption. As we turn to page 160, we do the work that we must, not only to bring about redemption, but to bring about a time in which we can all rest under a shelter of peace. And Rabbi Singer shared with us in that story that we're not spread out. We are held together as one Jewish community. And also this notion that we continue to renew ourselves again and again. And we do so by being able to guard Shabbat, to keep this time sacred, to remind ourselves of the joy we can enjoy together as one community on Shabbat. Vishamru, these words can be found on page 162. We turn to page 164 and rise in spirit.
La 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 Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Rufi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. La 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
In the words of Amanda Gorman, when day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and are unafraid. The new dawn balloons as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. We continue now in silent prayer.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom rav Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rav Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Great poets have a way of being able to take a very particular experience and speak to the universal feelings that are evoked from that very particular experience. And that's what good prayer does as well. And so while Amanda Gorman talked about her own experience as an African American, in which she talked about going from the belly of the beast, talking about that very specific African American experience, there were times where she invited us to think of ourselves as one human family with experiences of both suffering and triumph, and the promise of a new day that we all can feel. And so when we come to this point in our service, where we think about people who are suffering in our midst, maybe even ourselves, people around the world who need healing, I think of the words that she shared, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together. And so in this moment where we pray for healing, I invite you to share the names of those who are tired, who are hurt, who are grieved, about whom we hope for healing. You can unmute yourself and share those names.
Sherry Silver,
My good friend Roz Moss from Jerusalem.
Joan Tepper.
Paul Reich, Mike Dietz,
Luban Kotarezeski, Carlos Tabades.
Roberta Evans.
We are also holding in our hearts Gabby Cowan, Don Sable, Jim Clemens, Nita Grimes, Dave Sussman, Brian Pernick, Susan Cody, Barry Ballack, Susan Levine, Alana Worth, Rochelle Baddock, Elaine Baddock, and Jonathan Spitz, Sam Jacobson, Gary Schroeder, Linda Havard, Warren Stipich, Phoebe Kleinman, the Myers family, Helen Riback, Rami Jackie, and Gigi Green, Pat Vicek, the McDermotts, Roberta Evans, Sheila Levine, B. Davis, Dee Dee Cohn, Avner Drucker, Rachel Kaplan, Eric Boyd, Florence Bernberg, BJ Richards, Amy D'Angelo, Tony D'Angelo, David Gordon, Mara Weiner, June and Dan, Marty Ross, Janie Zolden, Sari Lipschultz, Sherry Silver, Hazel Lee Golden, Ronnie and Marissa Green, Sally Hare, Jamie DeVega, that might be Jaime DeVega, Sue Miller, Molly Jert, Bill Witcher, and Molly Kurt. We're also thinking of Rabbi Ellen Weinberg Dreyfus, as well as our beloved cantor Shira Ben David, who is healing beautifully, who will soon be with us on these Shabbat services. We hold all of them in our hearts as we turn to page 371 and sing the words of Misha Berach.
מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Yisheberach imotenu, mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Refuah Shlema. Well, we have had such an extraordinary treat of having our fifth graders lead us this evening in the Ve'ahavta. They did so magnificently, partially because they have extraordinary parents, partially because they're part of this wonderful community that embraces them lovingly, and partially because they have wonderful teachers. So we would love to have a moment to be able to spotlight all of our fifth grade teachers who are with us this evening, and also to be able to spotlight some of our fifth graders who are here this evening. And I would also love for us to spotlight you, Cantor Katzman, one of our great teachers, our inspiration. When we say the Kaddish Rabbanan, we say this on behalf of our teachers and our students, that they may go on to good health, continue to rise in their both their stature and satisfaction, that they continue to learn new things and also continue to teach us. Cantor Katzman, the reason why I want to include you this evening is because you've been doing this for us for, I don't know how many years now, but a lot, more than just a couple of decades. But I think now we could say at least a few. And so this evening, before you join us again as our Cantor Emerita and just sneak into the background, while you're here with us this evening, we want to say to you, thank you. Thank you for the ways that you have taught us, led us beautifully. I want to say to our teachers, to our Director of Lifelong Learning, Jay Rappaport, to our extraordinary coordinator of all things that we do in the religious school, Rachel Lipson. And look at how perfect that both Melissa Bell and Holden Bell, Melissa, who has mentored Rachel, and it's so fun to see you this evening. Ruthie, it's fun just to be able to see you this evening. And Brian and Arella, for not only being extraordinary teachers, being some of our most beloved tutors. And Brian, thank you, and Esther, for working so diligently on that beautiful video of the Ve'ahavta and our students doing that. We want to be able to honor you with Kaddish D'Rabbanan, this special Kaddish for our teachers and our students. And I invite everyone to rise in spirit. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen, Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'richu, le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechamata, ta'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. All Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Tamidehon, v'al kol Tamidehon, v'al kol ma'an da'askin b'raita, di v'atra hadein v'di v'chol atar v'atar, Yehei lahon v'chon shlama rabba, china v'chista v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin amozne revichei, v'forkana min kodam v'chodi v'shmaya, V'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. And to you we say, amen, mwah, amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Our incredible teachers do so much for our whole Temple Shalom community. And there are so many exciting things happening in our Temple Shalom community, especially those coming up this week. So I'm going to open up to my fellow rabbis as well to see what they want to spotlight what's going on for this week.
What do you have, Rabbi Singer? What are you going to share with us this week?
I'm racking my brain. So if anyone has something that they want to send my way that I can say out loud, please do. But off the top of my head, I think we just have some exciting classes and our general temple stuff, as far as I know. What do you guys have?
Well, I know actually, Rabbi Singer, a week from this Sunday, you have Introduction to Cheese with Makom. Yeah.
We're having an incredible cheese tasting class and conversation about Jewish dietary practices with myself and with a real life cheesemonger that is for couples in their 20s and 30s. So we have that on our Makom website. I'll put it in the chat, but we'd love to see you there.
And on Thursday, our Eco Chavara, which falls under Sholom Justice. So Sholom Justice, our social justice group, and Eco Chavara, the group that really takes upon it to continue to guide us in how to tackle climate change, tackle some of those of our world's greatest issues of sustainability, is hosting a Tu B'Shvat Seder, because Tu B'Shvat is next week, known as the birthday of trees. We are going to come together to talk about some of these ancient traditions and contemporary issues through a Seder.
How fun. I can hardly wait. And also how fun and informative. let's spotlight Jay Rappaport for him to be able to share about Randy Weingarten coming this Sunday. It's a huge, huge feat for our congregation to have someone of her stature coming to speak to us. So Jay, please let us know more.
Hi. Yes, we are really excited to have Randy Weingarten, who is the head of the American Teachers Union, who is going to be talking about justice in education. She has 3 big topics for us. Racial equity in education, the response to COVID in education, and the new priorities for the new Biden administration in terms of education. So we're really, really excited to have this great speaker with us. It's really a treat. She'll be with us Sunday morning at 10:45, and I'm going to put the link in the chat to more information on how to register. We've already got a great crew, but we're really excited. This is a big one.
That's so great. And she even said, bring all of your tough questions to her. She would love to be able to answer them and to really have a thoughtful discussion with our community. So we're looking forward to that. And I'm the warm-up act, if you should choose it. At 9:30, I am again teaching a course on looking at stories from the Talmud and contemporary pieces of art to be able to help us get through this winter with warmth and inspiration throughout this COVID-19 pandemic, that we are all in this together. Including Coco playing with her toys back here. So sorry for the noise, but she wanted to get in here as well. So with that, Shabbat Shalom, Scott, Rabbi Gelman, we're looking forward to the next part of our survey.
Beautiful. And hello, Coco. We turn back in our prayer books to page 586 for the words of Aleinu L'Shabeach as we hope for a world of peace and justice.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
As we prepare for our Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, a poem named To One in Sorrow by Grace Noel Crowell. Let me come in where you are weeping, friend, and let me take your hand. I, who have known a sorrow such as yours, can understand. Let me come in. I would be very still beside you in grief. I would not bid you to cease your weeping, friend. Tears can bring relief. Let me come in. I would only breathe a prayer and hold your hand, for I have known a sorrow such as yours and understand. Our Temple Sholom community today is thinking about those who have passed away in this last month of Shloshim: Dale Bina, Gloria K. Brisman, Saul Machanik, Jack Calabro, Katie Cutlip, and Katrina Ray. And we are thinking about the McDermott family, as Christine McDermott, mother of Bob McDermott, died on January 16th and will be laid to rest on tomorrow, on Saturday. We're also thinking about those yard sites that have been observed in this week now, ending Lois Brill Aronson, Jerry Arnold, Carol Benach, Ben Block, John Kernick, Dr. Richard Evans, Colonel Henry Fantis, Gene Feldman, David Fogel, Edward Frazier, Albert Goldstein, Larry Gordon, Reva L. Gordon, Robert Healy, William Hyman, Lexi Kammerman, John J. Kolar, Ray Kramer, Patricia Kurjan, Henry Lewis, Sarah Linker, Carol Kaplan-Lahner, Kalman Mintz, Jenny Pepper, Jacob Pinkovich, Miriam Euring Palia, Sheila Rosenblatt, Samuel Schickler, Goldina Schwartz, Rabbi Frederick C. Schwartz, Milton Siegel, Stephen Seiner, Gussie Slavinsky, Jesse Steinman, Adele Wallet, Marsha Weinstein, and Joseph Zeidman. If we have names which we would like to add to our list of memory, I invite you to unmute and share them aloud, or to add them in the chat, either here on Zoom or on Facebook. Now you're able to unmute if you'd like.
Marty Ballett, Cheryl Tamiko Goodman.
Howard Vian, Sandra Boynshore.
Steve Schwartz.
Dr. Joseph Scheigler.
Michael Cooper.
Bill Lightman Kincaid.
And I'll say on this Shabbat, when we as a Temple Sholom community are honoring the memory of Rabbi Frederick C. Schwartz, we are grateful to continue to carry on his legacy of learning, of wisdom, of goodness, of commitment to our youth, and to be able to continue to live in his light and to try to live beautifully and gracefully in what he has left us of this beautiful community of Temple Sholom.
Amen. As we add to those names, Sophia Lambert, Samuel Levine, Kenneth Altschuler, John M. Griffith, Rudy Hinson, Hank Aaron, Aaron Floyd, and Edith Bob, as we together recite the words of Kadisha Tome as we rise in body and spirit.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו אמן. ויאמרו אמן.
We conclude our service with, as our cue sheet says, Adon Olam in the folk melody, which I think is English for Mi Sinai, the one that we have been singing since all the way back when all of us, we were right there together at Sinai, probably singing this Adon Olam.
At Temple Sinai, they sing this Adon Olam? I'm sure they do. Okay. All right. Please join me. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chefzo kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Lo Adon Olam, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Hove, Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chefzo kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'hu Echad Ve'ein Sheni, Lehamshilo Lehachvira Adon Olam, B'li Reshit, B'li Tachlit, V'lo Ha'oz Ve'ha'misra Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chefzo kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Eli V'chai Goali, B'tzor Chevli Be'et Sara Adon Olam, V'hu Nisi Umanus Li, Menakosi B'yom Ekra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chefzo kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam. Big finish. Beyado Avkid Ruchi, Be'et Tishan Ve'a'ira Adon Olam, Ve'yiruchi Geviyati, Adonai li Ve'lo ira Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chefzo kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam.
As my fellow rabbis have quoted Amanda Gorman so beautifully, I'd like to end on a quote from her poem as well. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. May we continue that inertia of peace, of coming together, and of love. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.